I want to touch briefly today on AI in pharmaceutical R&D, and specifically touch on several trends that we have seen strengthening through the pandemic, and try to think what might stay post the pandemic. Couple of words on CytoReason. CytoReason is using AI to enable drug discovery and development. Basically, the CytoReason platform is making drug development more accurate, more affordable, and much faster. And that is basically making the drugs relevant for smaller patient populations. And when we think about it, the smallest patient population we can think of is one patient. So this is enabling the pharmaceutical companies to become a lot more personalized in their treatment, getting us closer to the grand vision of personalized healthcare. CytoReason's customer base includes some of the largest pharma companies in the world. Most of the top 10 pharma companies are customers of ours. It's based on over a decade of research at Stanford at the Technion by my co-founders. And the company's been around for 3 years, and the data that we accumulated cost for production over $600 million. And basically, when we think about the data, the new technologies they're enabling pharmaceutical R&D, they're kept in silos. So pharma grade data, the data that is used for pharmaceutical R&D, is mostly kept in the different companies, and it's not being shared across the industry. And basically, CytoReason is becoming the hub of pharma data when all these different companies are sharing their data with CytoReason. We're training our models, using them, and making the models accessible for the different companies without the risk of competition. So if we think for a second on what exactly CytoReason technology does, so we are taking the big data, we're taking the measurements, all the data that has been accumulated throughout the clinical trials on one hand, and we are taking the knowledge, so all the scientific literature and all the discoveries that are documented, and we're bringing them together and putting them together in a cell level model, which is what biologists or researchers in the industry need to make drug discovery faster and better. And then there is a component of machine learning that every new trial that we get exposed to is improving the accuracy of the models. The drugs are basically used by the technology is used by the pharmaceutical companies in the earlier phases for discovery, identifying new targets. Also, it's used in the later stages of the pipeline. So basically, when you have a drug that is doing pretty well and you want to improve its accuracy, improve its performance, or expand its market, and obviously in approved drugs, for looking at combinations and expanding the markets, finding new diseases that these drugs can handle. Specifically with in the COVID situation, our customers, as you probably can figure out, had most of the drugs in the market. And when the corona crisis started, we, in a matter of days, we put together a model of ARDS. ARDS is the condition that is what's called the cytokine storm, the condition that most severe corona patients died from. And we were able to take our customers' drugs and very quickly, within a matter of days, identify which drug might help in an ARDS situation. And that led almost within 2 weeks to allow the big pharma companies to file with the FDA for starting clinical trials of ARDS. But that's not the only thing I wanted to talk about today. I wanted to talk about the different trends that AI brought to the pharma industry, the pharma R&D. So what have happened? The one main element, the main axis that the AI was measured on is on the pace. Throughout the past few weeks, everything in pharma had to move very quickly, very different than the typical way of pharmaceutical R&D. And the main question was whether it's more accurate. So let me go quickly through the main applications. So as the example I gave with what CytoReason was doing, drug repurposing, so using one drug that is approved for a specific indication to a different indication, that's a major, that was a major innovation that was required throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. Evaluating drug candidates, so mostly for pharmaceutical companies, the large companies, to decide which drugs of a smaller company they might want to help push. Expedient readouts of results. So many trials were going on, and many new trials were started. A lot of the companies were required to understand what is going on in their trials, not in a matter of months as it typically was, but in matter of days or weeks. Obviously, the identification of subpopulations has been critical. So understanding which group of patients, so which group of patient is going to respond, or which group of patient its condition is going to worsen more than others. These are questions related to biology. Obviously, on the other side of the pharma R&D, the chemistry, there were other AI applications such as protein structure simulation, understanding the structure of the virus, and drug design, very quickly coming up with new ideas. But there is something else I want to talk to you about. And that's the trend that I think is going to stick around post-COVID-19. Throughout the pandemic, many of the lab animals and facilities were shut down. And basically that critically stopped a lot of the work that the pharmaceutical companies were doing. But let's talk for a second what mice are used for in this industry. So millions of mice basically are sacrificed in the process of drug development and drug discovery. And the process is, the idea is, let's cure a mouse and then try to cure a human. But the reality is that still, of the top 10 diseases, 15 million people die each year, $8 trillion of annual healthcare costs, and that's your answer, I guess, is still being spent. Huge advancement in science are happening, but still, phase 3 trials are still failing in an ever-growing phase. So this is not working. And the one thing that happened throughout the corona crisis has been the understanding that animal models are not necessarily going to be the future of drug development, and computational models can replace animal models in certain areas, obviously not all. And what we are expecting is that over a long period of time, starting now, the mice and the animal models gradually will be left out of the R&D and would be replaced by technology adoption. And probably tying it to what Yossi Bagon said earlier, the technology adoption is happening in big corporations in the best way they can do, not only with the consumers. So with that optimistic view and cute mouse picture, I would like to thank you.